The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking fan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And here's your host. He don't need your Civil War. There it is.
I had moderate expectations.
Oh, no.
And you just... Oh, you could not have phoned that in harder if you had a clamshell, my man.
Let me tell you how I had to resist the urge to grab the lyrics of that Guns N' Roses song. And just I figure everyone gets it. They don't need it. I really want to get into this. And they don't need a 20-minute me Shatner karaoke Guns N' Roses Civil War just to bring in the man, the myth, the legend from 401mania.com. Robert Winfree. Yay!
Woo, yeah!
Yeah!
All right, wait, we good now? Your faux enthusiasm can be done. It's okay. I appreciate it.
You should see my faux enthusiasm at work when my manager walks in and demands we all greet her with high levels of enthusiasm.
You should stab her.
I do work in a jail, so at least it'll be a short walk to the cell.
That's
or you could frame one of them. They're already in there.
Just true. Hey, we got somebody.
So we're starting good. We're starting good. We're not going to get banned from various social media platforms.
Not yet.
Not at all. Not for threatening
later.
murder. Wait, by the way, we have somebody down here.
I'm getting there.
Yes, sir. I bet you are.
Well, yeah, Mark is here. He introduced me. I'm Robert. This is Damn You Hollywood. We're talking Civil War tonight, the latest A24 joint. And joining us is Chris from Movies That Don't Suck and Some That Do. How you doing,
Hi.
Chris?
Hi, how you doing? You good? This is
I'm
first
pretty
time,
good.
This is first time meeting Winfree. You seem like so I remember you a person didn't watch Barbie, right? You still not watch Barbie?
Here we go.
Correct.
Okay, it just seems like you don't like fun that much, man. I gotta be honest.
Wow, right out of the fucking gates, dude.
I have been accused of that more than once. I'm okay with it.
Oh, that's all right. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I know we've had Mark on a few times, more than a few times. So,
and they've regretted it every single time. They're like,
No,
we
we
let
love
this
it.
guy on, and he pushes us in the pool and takes over and yells for 20 minutes about wokeness.
Well, Mark and my co-host Neil just talk about wrestling. I just sort of stand there just staring at them because I have nothing to add to that. But yeah, I do a podcast on Movies Don't Suck and Something to Do. It's weekly, and we usually review 2 new movies. Comes out Monday or live on Thursdays at 6:30.
Here's why I love your podcast. You do one in-theater movie, and then you do one of the various cadre of Drek currently on any given streaming service.
Yeah, it's usually dark. It's usually shit, like usual. Not all the time. A lot of times it's bullshit. But actually, this week we're actually doing something different. I went to Panic Fest last week. That the Horror Film Fest. It's in Kansas City. So this coming 2-3 weeks, we'll be putting out 3 episodes based on Panic Fest movies.
Is that where that Beaver movie came from?
No, that's actually I don't know how I got that. Last year I had to talk to a lot of fucking I had to talk to a lot of people. They actually give us access to the filmmakers last year, and so I had a lot of PR people emailing me, and they emailed me and asked if I wanted to, watch it, and I said yeah.
All right. So real quick, like 10-word reviews. Ricky Stenicki.
Dumb, but I really liked it.
Okay. Damsel.
I have no. Oh wait, the one with the fucking bullshit. I hated it.
Perfect.
Yeah, he is.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how the service you provide me,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
movies that don't suck and some that do, other than I get a second shot at reviewing movies that I can't
Mhm.
get this one to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
so I'll bug these guys and be like, "Hey, I can't get this on my own podcast, and none of my other people will work with me on it. But can I come on yours and talk about it? How I got to do American Fiction." But
Hey,
you
that
guys,
was a scheduling issue. That was not. None of us said no. It was just we couldn't fit it in.
Yeah.
true. But the service that movies that don't suck and something that do provide for me is a lot of times I'll think about doing a streaming movie or like setting up a show where we'll do maybe 2 streaming movies like we've done in the past. Like last year we did Tetris and Boston Strangler.
Yeah.
And then I'll see that you guys didn't go, fuck it, who cares? Like they got it covered. I don't want to do this anymore.
So the thing is about that is it's like I have no problem going to 2 movies a week at a theater. I'll fucking do it all the time. But Neil claims he has no time to do this, and so when pandemic happened, we couldn't go to the theater. We started doing almost exclusively streaming movies. And then when I was like, let's get back to it, he's like, well, how about we do this one streaming movie theater? I'm like, all right, dude, like if you want to do that. But there are weeks when I insist you go to the movie theater twice, and so very rarely can I do that. But you know, he was in Philadelphia last week at WrestleMania.
Yes, he was. I saw his pictures.
He got sick, and we had to do. We did Bob Marley finally, and I don't even fucking the other movie we did. But
yeah, really. When I saw the graphic for that. So for those that don't know, we syndicate the movies that don't suck and some that do podcasts. So
yeah,
they have first run, and then they send me the link and the imagery, and then I post it here on w2mnet.com. So when I saw the graphic for Bob Marley, I'm like, a little late there, pal. But I'm glad you got to it.
yeah,
All right.
it's okay. It's not bad.
So 50 words or less, Chris, and then we'll get into Civil War, the reason for the season tonight.
Mhm.
Tell us about you as a movie fan. I've talked in the past about how I kind of, I grew up watching movies. I grew up in the age of the mom and pop video rental store, and then, the early days of Blockbuster, going with my dad to rent movies, having HBO. This was a big part of the culture I grew up in. And then late high school, early college, big time movie gatekeeper snob. Yeah. But not just with like the hoity-toity independent film stuff. Like I watch garbage. I watched a lot of like soul cinema and something weird videos and shit like that.
Say it the way you want to say it, Mark.
What?
Soul cinema, really? We both know you mean blaxploitation.
All the exploitations, okay?
Yeah.
Nunsploitation, all of it. Yes.
Big in the exploitative side of things, Mr. Radulich.
That's right. I like to exploit people, as we know.
Confirm.
So yeah, and then once like DVD players became a thing, like I was at Tower Records every weekend, just buying movies, and from a lot. I loved movies from the 70s. That's my shit. I grew up in the 80s, and then I was all over the place. So give me the fast and dirty of your movie loving history since you started a podcast.
Okay, all right. So like you, I grew up in the 80s, early 90s. So like Ghostbusters and Batman, and that was my shit growing up. Ghostbusters, it's sad seeing what came to now, but like I'll still see this, but anyway, I didn't really become a movie guy until I was like late early 20s, right? Independent film. I'm gonna date myself here, and I'm also make myself a little embarrassed for saying probably I really loved Little Miss Sunshine. That got me all the indie shit, But about 10 years ago when The Witch came out, that's when I turned from a guy who likes movies to a movie guy. The Witch is and it's kind of recent. But The Witch is the movie that brought me to the how much I love horror now. Right? Yeah. So that's where I'm at. Like I've done podcasts probably 6 years now. So
is this the only podcast you did? Movies that don't suck and some that do?
I do another one called Record Night where we talk about we talk about music, but we do it so infrequently, like once every 2 or 3 months, that I forget I forget to hawk it on here. But it's called Record Night, and you can find it on all places you find podcasts.
Robert, what are we talking about tonight?
We're talking about Civil War, Mark, the most provocative the movie of the season. If you believe the marketing, and never believe the marketing, people. Never.
Don't believe the Flavor Flav, Saint Flavor Flav of the Church of Public Enemy once told us, "Do not believe the hype." And that's exactly how he said it. And you should follow Saint Flavor Flav. You should also follow Saint Natalie Merchant. These are all saints. You should always give them what they want, right, Chris?
I agree.
All right. Good boy. You can come back.
Yeah.
Civil War is a 2024 dystopian film directed and written by Alex Garland. Real quick, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but Alex Garland, known for the following. He wrote and directed Ex Machina, which David and I reviewed here as a part of a triple feature focusing on
Pretty
artificial
good.
intelligence
I love
movies.
Ex Machina.
He wrote and directed Annihilation.
Less good.
He wrote and directed Men, which Chris did not love.
Didn't love it.
Yeah. He's got Warfare.
Yeah,
coming
that
in.
one really missed the mark.
He's got Warfare coming up that he wrote and directed. He wrote 28 Years Later, which is also coming up. He wrote 28 Days Later.
Love it.
And Sunshine.
Mhm.
And he
So basically, as long as he's working with Danny Boyle, we're good. If not, it's a little hit and miss.
and he wrote Dread, the remake of the shitty Sylvester Stallone movie.
I love Dread personally.
Dread's good.
Yeah,
Dread's
that's,
real good.
that's good. He wrote, directed, and executive produced Devs in 2020, the television show. And he worked on, and he co-wrote Enslaved, Odyssey to the West, and DMC, Devil May Cry. He's a short story supervisor for those of you who like video games. So Alex Garland, definitely an auteur filmmaker of sorts. He, pretty talented guy for the most part. And his Civil War here is the story of a team of journalists who travel across the U.S. during a rapid...
No.
They travel. Sorry, I'll stop reading the stupid wiki and just say they traveled from New York to DC, a hot 3 states.
That's a train ride. That's not across the United States.
Yeah, that is a day trip for a sandwich. Anyway, during the escalating American Civil War, Second Civil War, which has engulfed the nation, the ensemble cast includes Kirsten Dunst, who I confuse with Reese Witherspoon because I'm old.
Okay, look, Mark. Only one of these two women has turned into romaine lettuce, and you know which one.
Oh my god, damn!
Woo!
One's seen some shit, right?
Wagner Moura, who I didn't realize was in Narcos until it got pointed out to me, and I'm like, holy crap, it's him.
Yep, that's the guy from Narcos.
Cailee Spaeny, Stephen McKinley Henderson, Sonoya Mizuno, and Nick Offerman, who's in the film for all of 3 seconds. It premiered at South by Southwest on March 14th, 2024, and was theatrically released in the U.S. by A24, who brought us the Oscar-winning Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I love it.
And the non-Oscar-winning The Iron Claw. In the UK by Entertainment Film Distributors on April 12th, 2024. It received positive reviews from critics and seals alike and grossed over $25 million worldwide. All right, Robert. Lean, mean plot machine. Hit it, baby.
Okay, just for the record, because we might wind up talking a little bit of politics here. That's my political alignment.
Okay, yeah.
Just so
Baggage
everybody
Tarantulas
knows.
2024, right?
Don't blame me. I voted for Kodos.
There you go. All right, so at some point in the future, not exactly sure how much further, civil war has broken out in the United States of America, is fractured into 3 more or less distinct groups. No one knows how long the war has been going on. It's just one of those things. There's a war. What are you going to do? But our primary groups are the loyalist states, which is most of the East Coast, which tracks. And then through the Midwest, and then through like the middle of through Colorado. The Florida Alliance, with I assume Mark is at least somewhere involved in the bureaucracy of that. I forget the name of the other group.
Western Forces.
Yeah, thank you. And for some reason, they included Portland. They included Oregon in that, which.
All right, here it goes like this. The loyalist states are from Maine to South Carolina and all the way across to Nevada. Then you have the Florida Alliance, which goes from Florida to Oklahoma, including Louisiana. You have the Western Forces, which takes up the bulk of the film, which is
just Texas and California.
Which is the tag team of Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Sorry, Chris, I had to get one in. And then
fine.
and then
Hey,
the
they're
new
tag team partners that don't get along. Where have I seen this before?
yeah. And then there's the New People's Army, which is the Pacific Northwest and parts of like southern Canada. Yeah, otherwise known as like the Montana, Nebraska, Michigan states. All right, keep going.
So those are our, in theory, players. We only ever care. We hear about the Florida people, and then we ignore them. And the rest of this is, will the Western forces, the Western forces are closing in on the capital. And we have President Nick Offerman.
President Ron Swanson.
Yes.
Who, about the only good thing apparently this president did was disband the FBI, but, not
Hey,
the
look.
worst idea in the world.
For God's sakes, Robert, keep your politics out of my movie, okay?
But this is going badly for the president, the war. The Floridians are coming up the coast. And again, now that we've formed the mega powers of California and Texas, and they're barreling down on Money Inc. over there in the White House. Our story follows. There we go. I got Mark to break a little bit
I was
there.
gonna say, like, I'm just thinking about people watching this going, I don't watch wrestling, you nerd. I don't understand what you're saying. And the wrestling people are going, woo!
Yeah, Nick Offerman doing his best Ted DiBiase as the president of the United States is how we're
Kicking basketball out of
spinning
black
this.
kids' hands and everything.
So our story primarily follows a bunch of journalists. We have Kirsten Dunst as a photojournalist. We have, you just mentioned the guy's name, but it completely spaces it.
Wagner Moura.
Thank you. Wagner Moura as a journalist of some variety. Allegedly, he does interviews.
He's a reporter for Reuters, so they say.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
There's the old reporter who's overweight and but still wants to tag along, and then there's the young, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I'm the only person on God's green earth who has a hero that's a journalist. Who just happens to stumble upon her personal hero during a suicide bombing on the streets of New York City.
Like you do.
Yeah.
Sadly, probably about to become a more common thing if you look at New York these days. Anyway, these people all decide the war is about to end. What are we doing here? What am I doing here sitting around taking pictures of dismembered bodies in the aftermath of a suicide bombing? This is rote. We've been doing this forever. I am a journalist. I must do things of import. And the last thing that we can do that actually matters is maybe talk to the president. So why don't we all make an end run? So they all get into a crappy car and they drive from New York to Washington, D.C. But they have to kind of go circuitously. So they go through Western Pennsylvania and down through West Virginia. And along the way, bad things happen because, of course, they do. They get shot by Jesse Plemons because Jesse Plemons. They have a couple of friends who get shot by Jesse Plemons.
I say, who plays Jesse Plemons in this movie? Yet again.
Who wandered onto set one day and said, "Oh, you need a scary looking guy who's probably a white supremacist to just shoot people. This is what I do."
Wandering off the set of Killers of the Flower Moon, still in his uniform.
Still actually found out that Jesse Plemons is cast like a week before filming because the guy who usually played him walked off set.
Nice.
And so his wife was like, "Can you do this?" She's like, "You got it."
Yeah, all right. I'll stand around and shoot people.
I was gonna say literally a day of shooting at best.
Maybe two, because there's some technical stuff going on there. But
what I love about that is, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I have to say this. So Jesse Plemons, maybe a day of shooting in a sandwich. Clearly doing the director a favor, obviously doing this for his wife, whatever his reasons are.
Yeah.
And he is all over this fucking marketing. You would think he's the villain of this goddamn thing.
Yeah.
He has like 2 minutes of screen time.
He's great. It's great screen time though.
And it would be 4 minutes if he spoke slower.
That's true. So people die. Their older mentor dies. They meet up with the staging operation for the last assault on the Capitol, and as they get there, they're informed the military has surrendered. So all that's left is the holdout in the Führer bunker. Sorry, I mean the Oval Office. There's a handful of true believers and the Secret Service, and that's it. There's no military might to be had here. So they follow in as we get the last assault on the White House. A lot of gunfire, a lot of very loud gunfire. Somehow I think a lot of critics confused gritty with loud when describing this sequence.
It's very loud.
Yeah. They get into the White House. They're looking for the president. He's in the Oval Office instead of the secure bunkers that exist for this purpose, but hey, we're going with it. Kirsten Dunst sacrifices herself to save the young girl who rekindles hope in the world or some such BS. And they find the president, and his last words are, "Don't let them shoot me," right before he's shot. And that's it. That's your movie.
I totally forgot, by the way, on this, that you guys just give away everything about the movie.
Yeah,
that's fine.
We spoil the fuck out of man, catch up. We spoil the fuck out of every movie. I'm going to pitch it over to Chris to give his craft review, but before I do, I want to give my in-theater experience as I am wont to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I, being a good father, took this, and I will truck with no opposition to that remark. I took a 13-year-old girl, 12-year-old boy, and a 10-year-old boy, nearly 10-year-old boy. It was his birthday. To go see this movie. And look, they've seen horror movies before. They've seen the Scream movies. They've seen Aliens. They've seen, I just took them to go see Monkey Man, which we'll talk about when we get to the money. It's awesome.
Monkey Man.
Monkey Man's great.
I regret not reviewing that with you because you had a slam dunk intro song for that one if we did.
That's true. Maybe we'll get to it eventually. But anyway, my point being that one would argue that maybe this isn't the most rated R movie, the most appropriate rated R movie to show tween children. But I would argue that I grew up in a household where we openly talked about politics and religion, and I was through those experiences made to be a critical thinker, and I want my children to do the same. So I think parenting is about the task of talking to children about hard stuff. And so we watched this movie and we discussed it, and there was some pretty graphic imagery in it. And I had 3 different experiences with 3 different children. There's my daughter, who tends to be on the sensitive side, who the movie was very shocking and very disturbing. And she ran around telling all the children at school that she was traumatized by this, but she was glad to have been through it. It engendered a great conversation between the two of us. The 12-year-old bonus kid goes, "This was sad, but really cool, and I really liked it." Okay. And as Robert said off air, he goes, "Yep, that was about the tone of the audience's reaction to it too."
No, that was the intended audience reaction.
Yeah, right. Then there's my son, who knocked over an old lady and and an elephant and all kind in a tent, and to get to me to go, "Dad, that movie had no effect on me, and it was awesome." And I'm like, "Ooh, yeah." Anyway,
you may have gone a little bit too far there.
Let's get you back in front of the Disney Channel. My experience with it, and I'll get to my craft review after Chris's, but my initial sort of gut reaction to this was, I described it. There was a conversation about the Green Knight in our group chat today, and I said the Green Knight was kind of like food that's shot for commercials, where it looks awesome, and until you discover it really isn't food. It's stuff dressed up to look like very pretty food. That's kind of Civil War for me. There's a lot of technical stuff that is outstanding and should absolutely be nominated for awards, if not outright win, like the sound design. This is kind of, for me, last year's Evil Dead Rise in that respect. But if this movie was sold to us as the modern movie for those of us struggling with current political discourse, and it's anything but that. It is a very personal tale about one person's redemption and tragic falling.
Allegedly.
It's what it's going for. It had an opportunity to, I think, say something about where we are as a polarized country and where we might be headed. The message is said within the first 20 minutes of the movie, and it's kind of the theme of the thing. And I'll just say it. It's Kirsten Dunst going, I went overseas to file stories about war in other countries so that I could warn people at home, don't do this. And here we are. And that's kind of the whole movie. And you get it. And I almost roll credits, because that's it. The rest of it is just shooting people at point blank range. So I'm going to set you up there, Chris. That's me setting the volleyball for you to spike. Go, baby.
So when I saw the preview for this, or really just the poster I saw about it, and I saw it written directed by Alex Garland, I was like, he's course correcting, right? After Men, I was pretty fucked up. I was like, but meanwhile, I saw that and was, what the fuck was Men? And it was gonna be awesome, but it wasn't, right? So
Kind of a fever dream for
Yeah,
those of you
yeah.
who haven't seen it.
So but I won the Civil War with I was pretty excited for it. Before I was fucking pumped. And I knew going in that there was gonna be a clear politics towards it, but people are gonna say, well, he has a retired, that's Trump or whatever. They're not here or there. To me, it did a pretty good job of staying vague about what the politics were and the events leading into the current situation. But you're right. The message was right at the beginning. It wasn't very veiled. She fucking said it like at the very beginning.
Yeah, she might as Keenan Ivory Wayans might have well have walked in frame and yelled the message.
Yeah. But that didn't say I didn't like this movie because I did like this movie. I liked it quite a bit. Like you were saying, there is great filmmaking going on in this when it comes to filmmaking with the cinematography, sound design, which there are a few times I got fucking jump scares while listening to this. And it was, like I said, beautifully made movie. And I really like the acting in it. Kirsten Dunst was who she was, but Wagner Moura and Stephen McKinley Henderson, anything he's in, I'm kind of in already. I really liked it. And I don't have a problem with the message being so yelled at me that I couldn't appreciate for what it was, because it was intense. It was entertaining. And I walked out. I mean, I wasn't that sad, but I was like, that was a pretty tough scenes in there. But that's my craft review. I like this movie quite a bit.
I think if you reframe this movie as a horror movie and
It is a horror movie for sure.
Yeah, it as a horror movie and not a political thriller, it works a lot better.
The marketing really did a disservice to it. People going in expecting to get some sort of provocative view about politics and be disappointed. And when you make a movie about that, it's impossible to avoid like comparisons. And so I think the reason it brought so many people by BS8 for opening is because it's that provocative. The title and what you think about with the state of politics is going to bring people in with that sort of view of it. And I was interested too, but I also didn't think we'd get a political message. I didn't expect Fox News or anyone to jump on this like that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think there was a need for people to feel validated, and there was a need for people to kind of take ownership of this movie. There was the Trump MAGA people who wanted it to be for them, so that they could be like, this movie's for us, and then yell it back at people. And then there was the non-Trump, progressive, liberal, LGBTQI, whatever the fuck you want to call them, people going, no, this is our movie, and this is a shame, you Trump people. And it's like none of that at all ever. This is just nothing of the sort.
Which is the smartest thing to me to do. I mean, like, people are claim to take ownership, but I'm just seeing it as a movie.
Yeah, no, I don't agree, and there's a conversation to be had about that. But you're allowed to have that opinion.
Sure.
Here's what I'll tell you. Again, if you reframe this movie as a horror movie, it works a lot better. And here's what I mean by that. Other than the sound design, which is the fucking star of this thing, other than maybe the subtle hair and makeup to make Kirsten Dunst look like the Crypt Keeper. Holy cow!
That's just Kirsten Dunst.
That's not hair and makeup. That's how she showed up to set. Like there's like a PA or something that took her out drinking the night before and then just woke her up 5 o'clock in the morning and like, we're shooting now. She's like, well, I gotta put my face on. No. We want you to look like the witch from Snow White. Okay, okie dokie, let's go. Like, why is everyone else pretty in hair and makeup? Don't worry about it, Kirsten. But the use of tension is the other star in this movie. And that's where the horror element comes in, because it's Chris knows, because he's a big horror guy, and obviously so is Robert. Tension is mostly what makes a horror movie. It's getting you to be unsure about where a scene is going. And then, some horror movie tends to lean on sort of cheap heat, like jump scares and stuff like that. But truly, the best horror movies are the ones where you really don't know where it's going, and when the action happens, when the kill happens, when the horror happens, you are truly like made to jump, and not because just for the cheap like blah. So an example of this, we talked about the Jesse Plemons scene, and because you don't know what Jesse Plemons is going to do, and you don't know how he's going to react. Is he a crazy person, or
that's the highlight of this movie for the record?
It really is.
Yeah,
It is this denouement is the zenith of this picture. It's also the scariest fucking scene in the movie.
Yeah,
just everything about that. The scene before it where they roll up to like Winter Wonderland.
Yeah,
and it's such a. I'll tell you, there's a subtlety and a beauty to this really horrific scene, and what it is sorry, my kids were even laughing about this. That like there was this level of detail. So for people to understand what happens as a sniper in the high tower, and there's two guys on the ground firing back at him, and they're trying to, and it's like the worst game of paintball you've ever seen. They're just trying to figure out where the other one is so they can shoot him out. And it's just those three guys. And the reporters get there, and they're like, "What's going on?" And you were talking about like the old Vietnam movies and like fog of war and what are we fighting for? Summed up beautifully in this scene. The two guys on the ground that are talking with the reporter, like, well, there's a guy. He's over there, and he's shooting at us. We're trying to shoot back at him. But why?
Well,
there's a guy.
The other one that gets in there is like, well, okay, but who's giving orders? What orders?
Yeah.
The guy's shooting at us.
Yeah. That was great. I mean,
I can't tell you how much I popped for him looking at Moura and going, "Oh, I get it. You're retarded."
And then he looks over at the girl.
I'm saying.
And then he looks over at the girl. Like, "What's happening here?" It's like, "There's a guy in the tower shooting at you." She's like, "She gets it."
There you go.
It's great.
And then the guy with the gun actually just tells everybody to shut up because he's finally lining up his shot.
So these guys have painted nails, like painted fingernails and dyed hair. By the way, it's great. It's such a great scene. But then, like I said, the next big sequence is the Jesse Plemons stuff. And Jesse Plemons, you have to understand when they pull the camera back and show you a mass grave. So there's a truck full of dead bodies, and they're dumping them into a mass grave. And
he's sprinkling lye on it like you do.
All right. And you as the audience member are just like, okay, well, like, is he on their side? Is he on what side is he on? Is there a side that he is? And here comes Hulk Hogan, but what side is he on? Sorry, I couldn't resist.
That's not an appropriate reference here.
My point is Jesse Plemons, and like my kids and I were either like when we were going to the movie, we were all kind of doing what kind of an American are you kind of a thing. But that's the thing. It's like in context, once you realize what's happening there, and my kids were so funny about that. They were just like fucking every last one. I'm like, someone points a gun at you and says, "What kind of American are you?" You don't say, "I'm from Hong Kong." Like the one guy, "I'm from Florida." Sure you are. You're fucking Cuban, but you're from Florida. Perfect. Good answer. Yeah, the shooting of the one guy from Hong Kong at point blank range, and then shooting his buddy. Like all horrifying, and they did it all without cheap scares. So those are the things that were good about it. This is a very personal story, which you would never know from the marketing, which is a big problem I have with this movie. Please say what the movie is, not what you think will get people in seats, and then lie to them.
Truth in advertising is dead and has been for some time.
This is the story of Kirsten Dunst's lead character, who has gone to the other side of the world and back, hoping that she would do some good in the world and realizing it's all for naught. This is somebody who's
in the vein of, just shouting your messaging at the audience.
Mm-hmm.
When the older mentor character looks over and goes, she has lost her belief in the power of journalism. Like, just flopping it out there, huh?
Yeah. This movie's about as subtle as as getting run over by a car. So this is her story. It's about finding her soul at the, through mentoring this girl, and it's a tragedy. There's two kinds of movies in this world: comedies and tragedies. Tragedies are the ones that that don't have a positive resolution. So
technically, this would be a comedy then.
What do you mean?
You're not familiar with how the Greeks redefined those?
Okay.
We're going to go by
How many main
Wait.
how many main characters are there in this movie, Mark?
4.
How many of them die?
1, 2.
If your answer is less than 4, it's a comedy.
Okay. In any case, so she finds her soul through mentoring this young photographer girl. Jessie is the character's name, and the message of the movie is: don't let the circumstances of your environment turn you into a monster. Maintain your integrity, maintain your soul. There's nothing else left in this world but that. And at the very end of the movie, not only it is left ambiguous as to whether or not she baited her into the hallway to get blown away, or she's just a dumbass and took advantage of an opportunity that was before her, which is
I'm
nice.
going dumbass, by the way. I'm going dumbass.
You're going with dumbass? Yeah. See,
because she was doing stupid shit the whole time, and I don't think she was bad. I think she just wanted that shot and was a dumbass. Like to me, that's. But
I'm going with baited, but I don't necessarily have to stand on this and shout I'm right. Like it really could go either way.
Yeah.
My point is, she runs into a hallway with his open fire. Lee saves her, and this is her moment of redemption, and gets shot for it. And the girl takes a picture of her dying. And this is meant to tell the audience, don't do this, which is what Kirsten Dunst said the first 20 minutes into the movie. Don't do. So there's the personal limited don't do this story of don't let yourself become a cynical monster. Then there's the bigger narrative of, hey, America, don't do civil war. Don't become Nazis. Don't become inhumane to each other, because there's a subtext of the movie about man's inhumanity to man. It's told with all the subtlety of a nuclear missile, but it's there. And it's kind of obvious.
It's there because there's nothing else there.
Yeah.
Like it's not there to be asserted because that's a big point. It's there to be received because there's nothing else.
If you like horror movies and you're into letting the sound of the movie draw you in and scare you, you'll have a good time with this movie. If you like Kirsten Dunst's character, and I'm not saying you will, but if you do, and you're moved by her story, and when she tragically dies, and this girl takes that
you
photo.
You mean a character that's so fleshed out that when she is told explicitly, "We're going to be here for 10 minutes. Why don't you tell me about yourself?" immediately deflects, and the audience is deflected with her to looking through photos.
Yeah, my point is, this movie
This is the character you're hanging your hat on.
This movie rests entirely on whether or not you, as an audience member, and if you're going with Robert's thing, you won't, but let's assume some people are different. Rests entirely on whether or not you buy into Kirsten Dunst's character. Invested, thank you. You are invested in Kirsten Dunst's character, because that's all the movie is. This is about her personal journey. To the level that worked for me, I think once I had one of these moments of, oh, that's what this movie is. Okay. I'm me and I'm allowed to have feelings, and I felt bad for her character. I feel bad for people. Again, I'm a professional social worker, and boy, have I gone through this. Where you go to try to do good in the world and you realize there's no good to be done. There's good to be done in small doses and with individual people. But if you're looking to make grand sweeping change, it's few and far between, if ever. And so you take the victories where you find them, and you find solace in that you do good work in and of itself. But if you're looking for big victories, you're going to be at a bar drinking most of your time. You're never going to be happy with what you're doing. So I identified with her personal story, and I was sad that that she dies rather tragically, and this young chippy gets this really great shot at the cost of this person's life. Everything else about this movie sucks. The fact they don't tell you why the country fractured, they don't tell you what they're fighting about. This was an opportunity to address maybe through allegory some of the issues of our time, and we do a better job of that on this fucking podcast than this movie does, and it frustrated the fuck out of me. Half the time I don't know what's happening in terms of and if
there is no context for any of the actions.
That's what I was getting to. Like, there's no frame of reference. There's no like when we talked about Napoleon, and I said some of the battle scenes are a little unreadable at times, where you're not quite sure because everyone's wearing the same uniform. Like, you're not quite sure who's on whose side, or what's going on. I said the same thing about the end of Dune. Maybe that's what I'm also thinking of, where the last battle with the Harkonnen, they're all wearing the same suit, so I have no idea what's happening half the time except that everything's hot, wet, and on fire. Here, it's not that bad, but there's still I'm more invested in the shooting people at gunpoint stuff than I am in the big battle sequences, which rests entirely on its technical acumen and not at all on anything else that would have made that better.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What you're looking for is interesting.
So I actually completely disagree when it comes to.
Okay.
I don't need a big grand story about a context. I didn't need that. That was important in the movie. That was it was background. It was
You're not wrong, but that's my point.
Yeah.
Is if you're willing to just accept that it's Kirsten Dunst's story, that's all fine.
Yeah.
Except that I was sold that this was a commentary about the state of America of American political discourse.
Hang on,
and it's not that.
There is kind of a happy medium that this movie doesn't even quite hit.
Okay.
Like I don't need the minutia of how things fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to accept, okay, things fell apart. Okay, we can go with that. But there's so much that is left. It's one thing to paint vague backgrounds and let the audience, kind of interpret. It's another to like put a Mondrian color swatch back there and go, hey, that counts. Like, no, it doesn't. If you're going to tell me the economy's collapsed and you make a point of this, and they do.
Hang on, because I talked about this with Melissa. There's a scene where they go to buy gas, and she's like, I'm going to give you $300 for a tank of gas and then in two portable tanks. And the guy laughs at her, like, get the fuck out of here. And she's like, Canadian. He's like, all right, good deal.
And that is close.
Yeah. And that is meant to imply that the American economy has collapsed. We have runaway inflation, as you do with war, and that Canada, which apparently is stable, has good running money.
So you throw that out there, and I mean, we don't know how long this has been going on. That the length of the conflict is actually kind of important, believe it or not, because if the U.S. government doesn't function, that has giant ripple effects for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Like, you can get away with telling me, and this is not about like certain countries are better than others, because this is not a value argument. This is a footprint argument. You tell me you're going to set this same story as, Nigeria is overthrown or in the midst of a civil war, or South Africa, or you wouldn't do Ukraine these days because obviously, but hypothetically, 20 years ago, you could set this in Ukraine, right? And there's geopolitical implications to that because these are countries and it matters. But if, Venezuela is basically still a failed state right now. It's not fully failed, but, it ain't great. El Salvador was overrun by gang violence to the point where it's destabilized.
By the way, if you guys are interested in this sort of thing, there's a great book by Pulitzer Prize winning author Jared Diamond called Collapse.
Oh yeah, I've read Collapse.
Oh, you've read Collapse?
Yeah, I loved it.
Have you?
Yes, I have.
You're my new favorite of you and Neil, by the way. Go ahead, Robert.
Collapse. Isn't that the one that also talks about like the logistics and economics of Montana as a potential bellwether?
Yeah, it gets into, I think, Rwanda. It gets into Yugoslavia, a couple of other places.
Well, Yugoslavia was
civilization too. They talk about
the
Adobe people. Yeah.
By the way, he won the
Yugoslavia was just a bad idea, but
yes, he won a lot of post World War II stuff was. But Jared Diamond won the Pulitzer for Guns, Germs, and Steel, which is one of the best books I've ever read. It's like my Bible.
Yeah. So but here's my point. Like, you can tell this same story in a lot of places, and you don't break the verisimilitude of the world when certain places are going through massive political and social upheaval.
Mm-hmm.
There's a handful that you can't do that with. And the United States is one of those. If it fails that badly, the repercussions of that are serious, and again, they span the globe.
So for people that have a modern context, in the 2008 financial collapse, part of the reason why foreign banks contributed to the saving of the too big to fail banks was that if they went down, so does Europe. And if Europe goes down, so does like half of the rest of the world.
Yeah, and we'll leave the globalization talk for another day, I suppose.
I needed to point that out so people
No,
understand.
you're right.
But we don't need to get further into it.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. If you need a real world example of why what we're kind of talking about, that would be it. So there's no context for that. That kind of needs to be like, who is are any of these guys these groups being supported by other foreign governments? Like this is a thing that matters when we talk about when you look at this kind of a conflict, because I guarantee you foreign governments would be backing different factions that are trying to take over.
Sure.
So there's a little bit of the geography that gets muddled. We know they go like New York through Pennsylvania, West Virginia, bits of Virginia into Washington, D.C. But again, it's a little muddled there. And the fact that everyone still looks the same and talks the same. Like, I'm sorry, I know Pennsylvania accents and I know West Virginia accents. And there's this sort of desire to blend together into this, like, hey, this is the patchwork of America right here. Meanwhile, you've covered a day's worth of travel, more or less, and not even appropriately represented the diversity of that region.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff going on here that kind of breaks your immersion in that respect. And I'm fine with, again, this is not to the extent that this was sold improperly. I think that's very true. But it's also, there's ways to be vague about the details that you don't need to get into without leaving them completely blank.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really blank spaces here.
In another movie that does the same thing, we're getting a lot of news footage. We get the context of everything that's happening in this world through newsreels, live reports, other journalists, that newspaper headlines, that sort of thing.
I mean,
my criticism about this movie is that it's utterly absent from this, and it shouldn't have been.
There's a bit where they go through a town that's not really, like, basically doesn't acknowledge the Civil War.
Right.
And they come out and go like, boy, this is a time capsule. And so once again, I'm left to ask the question, how long?
Okay.
Like, how long have you been? If you get to somewhere that's like, okay, we know this is happening, but we're kind of removed, and what are we going to do about it? Like, the best thing we can do is keep our heads down and be good people. Like, treat our neighbors well. Like, that's,
except for the snipers on the roof. Yeah, roof of the building.
Yeah. Well, again, like, there's clearly some concessions to it, but if this is meant to be like, oh, I've wandered from the killing fields into the one place that's untouched, that takes time for that kind of stuff to set in. So again, I'm kind of left with the question, like, we also, okay, New York is in the midst of unrest. Okay, I buy that. But, oh no, this lady's walking her dog. Isn't this a throwback to 1950? Like, come on.
Chris is trying to jump in here. What were you going to say, Chris?
Well, I wasn't going to say anything about it. It's just like, I think we just have different views on how much this needs to be fleshed out when it comes to the message or background. Like,
yeah,
we just different views, and that's fine. Like, yeah, both your views are valid, and I understand.
I'm gonna make a parallel to kind of help Chris's argument out. And it's a fight that I've had on here, so it's an easy one for me to point to, and I can just go say, hey, check out when we did this already.
Yeah.
The fight me and Ronnie got into over whether or not we needed to know why Michael Myers was killing people in the Halloween movies.
Yeah.
And the argument that I made the argument at the time of it, wouldn't it be nice if we got more of a view into why Michael Myers is the way he is? And Gavin, evil. And yes, and Gavin, and Gavin and everybody else said because he's evil, leave it alone. The unknown fear is the scariest fear. So to make Chris's point, and just we can move this on. Not that I don't agree with you, Robert. I would have liked the world to be a little bit more fleshed out too. This world is utterly absent of world building. The counter argument is, but isn't this a scarier movie because we have no idea why any of this is happening?
Well,
and that's also part of the point of that, I think.
Well, to the way the craft could have been done, let me tell you that there are scenes that are scary because you don't know what's going on. Right. Again, the Jesse Plemons thing, like, what is that guy's deal? He's just crazy. Okay. Scared out of my mind. I can tell you that movie, that scene got a bigger I'm going to sit forward and pay attention moment out of me just because I watched when Jesse Plemons moved his finger from outside the trigger well to inside it, because I'm kind of a gun guy. And if you are, you know you don't do that unless you're going to shoot.
Yeah.
So when he first meets them, you can see what he's doing. You can see his hand position, and you can see when that changes. And that's a big deal. And so they ring a lot of tension there.
Mm-hmm.
But that works on an individual, that works on a small scale.
Yeah.
To let that be, oh, this guy might have been crazy enough to just kill people anyway, and all he's got now is an excuse. And he's got his buddies, and all we've got is an excuse. And we're murdering people. We have a giant grave that we've dug on this guy's property,
Mm-hmm.
and we're dumping bodies into it out of the bed of a dump truck.
I want to break in real.
Hang on. That's horrifying and scary.
Yeah, I need to break in because I want to paint this picture for people, because it's the scene that really got my daughter, and most humans will probably react poorly to this, because it's a classic horror moment done up as like political reality, and that is in the midst of everything that's happening, the Jessie character, this young dainty girl, who my kids thought was 16 years old, by the way.
I thought so
she's
too.
23. Like, who the fuck?
Bull. She's lying. That's 16 to 18.
Yeah. Anyway, in the midst of what was going on in that scene, she falls into the grave, and it's a very well shot scene because the camera's tight on her, and she kind of goes "Buh," and realizes that she's fallen. And she's getting her bearings, and the camera's wide shot and pulling back, and suddenly you realize she's in a hole full of dead bodies. And she's like, yes, and she's like, I must crawl out of the hole of like this close to being a zombie scene, like crawling out of the hole full of dead bodies. And again, it's not in any way supernatural, not even the least little bit. But you still have that feeling of like, oh my God, what a horrible thing to happen to somebody. And, she finally does crawl out of it. And she's like, that was the worst thing. That's worse than being shot, because at least you get shot and it's over. Like that, that moment in hell for her. And it works very well visually. Go ahead, Robert.
So that, again, the ambiguity there, brilliant. 100% works. If you're trying to get me to care about the final assault on the White House,
yeah,
I'm sorry, that requires context.
It at least required more of Nick Offerman. Like, I don't know why I'm supposed to care that he's being shot. Like the movie just in a weirdly non-political political movie, you're just supposed to be cheering against the president because doesn't Biden and or Trump suck? It's like, come on, that's a big ask of the audience.
The most political thing about that movie is that final shot of them smiling with the dead president. That's the biggest political statement it makes.
That is Alex Garland still bent out of shape about Abu Ghraib ass.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying. like it's a very 2005, 2006 thing to care about. But,
yes.
Yeah, but it was there. I mean,
how much of your audience doesn't even know the reference you're making?
Yeah, the fact they still call it Abu Ghraib ass, and someone's gonna be like, "Is that what the prison was called?" It's Abu Ghraib.
No, there was a thing there. There was a thing, and
all right, we're almost done now. Wrap up.
So that's a big flaw in the writing, I think, and we don't need the minutia. Like, I don't need to know how each individual state broke down when they voted to secede or like that kind of nonsense. Like, you can get really granular with this in a way that is very isolating, and I don't want that.
Sure, we'll get it in the series that goes straight to fucking Max or some shit.
Yeah, the spin-off series coming to HBO.
Oh my God,
coming to Max.
Drive me fucking nuts.
or that'll be the prequel.
Yeah.
The whole prequel will just be how we.
It'll be Civil War Day 1.
Yeah, about that.
Who saw the preview?
The real kind of problem that I ran into with this is, if this is supposed to be, if what we're supposed to do is latch onto the characters that we're presented with kind of cardboard. We're presented with the idea of character rather than character. So I don't really care when bad things happen to them. And even I think the most empathetic people, unless you're genuinely damaged in that area, just look at that and go, well, that's kind of a bad thing that happens to somebody. I wish that didn't.
Mhm.
But you're not really invested in this character's redemption because you don't know enough about this character as a character to get invested in it.
Yeah.
So
Just as a point of comparison, and I know you didn't love the movie, but like the lead chick in Lisa Frankenstein, you at least get to know her as a person. So when bad things happen to her, you're like, oh, poor baby. I don't want that to
Little
happen.
bit,
You feel
yeah,
bad for
yeah.
her.
Did you
And
guys
there's nothing like that here.
I didn't like. I mean, I liked it. It was okay with Lisa Frankenstein. I didn't really love the movie.
no, neither of us loved it, but I get the point that's being raised.
Yeah.
So that's a big flaw. Like ultimately what we're left with is, one of the weaker adaptations of Heart of Darkness, basically.
Hmm.
All right.
And I'm genuinely not sure whether this or Ad Astra would be slightly lower on my list of adaptations for Heart of Darkness. But on the positive side of things, Garland has a wonderful understanding of a lot of what it takes to make a good movie. He has a really strong eye. He has a really good feel for how to move. There's not a lot of static shots here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good camera movement, and in lesser hands, it becomes annoying to have the camera moving as much as it does here. He handles that very deftly. A lot of people were praising the fight, like the assault on the White House, as like the best combat put to film, and which might have to tell them watch more war movies, please. I beg of you. It's not bad. Let me be very clear. This is not bad at all. It's pretty good. The best? Oy. No, not the best. It's not even top 5.
Yeah.
It's good. It's very good, but it ain't top 5. So,
yeah, are people burning footage of fucking Saving Private Ryan's opening assault? Like that still exists.
Yeah, that's an incredibly great and upsetting scene. Like part of cinema. When you're saying when you're talking about the I was talking about filmmaking is also very efficient. Like it says under 2 hours.
Yes.
Like, and we don't get that enough nowadays. I didn't
no,
want.
Boy, you said a mouthful there. Oy.
As another thing to praise this movie does understands the brief in the sense that this is not a 2-hour epic. This is not a 2.5-hour epic.
Yeah.
This is not Martin Scorsese trying once again to warp the fabric of space-time just because he can.
Limit the
I was going to say
limits of the human kidney. Yeah.
You know why this movie for me is a triumph? Because they were given $150 to shoot it on, and they shot it for $150, which meant they could, this isn't a movie meant for streaming, which means it could be 8 hours and we don't have to edit. Hooray! Like this, we harken back to the days of adult responsible filmmaking where you have to shoot and edit your movie for theatrical exhibition and try to get as many screenings in as possible. And it's not quite Venom, Let There Be Carnage, but at least these people made a movie intent to be seen on the screen in a normal window of time. Hooray!
Yeah.
Woo! And for that, I'm going to give it good marks.
Ultimately, like there's too much technical proficiency here and too many good scenes for me to call this a bad movie. But I came away from it and went, this is kind of a pile of meh.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like it's an upward inflection meh, but
it is. If you're a person who appreciates film for the visual medium, it's a winner. If you're a person who personally identifies with Kirsten Dunst's struggle and arc, it works. If you were somebody who goes to the movies to be told a thing, it fails. And that's really where, and that's the movie for you. It makes the most of the medium by presenting you a stunningly visual and movie picture with superior sound. The sound design in this is fantastic. It's the best.
Yeah, that really, unironically, best thing about this is the sound.
Yeah.
Could have done without the music. Like, this movie tries a little bit too hard to lean into the, hey, something happened, so let's drop all the natural sound and we'll play a song you might recognize and we can just watch the actors act in silence. It leans a little too hard into that. Like there's a couple of times it works, and then there's, hey, let's drive through a forest fire for some reason because pretty imagery.
At least they didn't do a James Gunn here. and like at least they didn't do a James Gunn and use overly popular music or everyone who took the wrong lessons from Guardians of the Galaxy and came up with Suicide Squad.
Yeah, and again, this isn't that bad because he's not leaning on like super popular music, but
Right.
This is more. Oh, I'm gonna say a name and you're gonna get pissy at me, but Zack Snyder does this, where he will like drop the sound, and here's a song that I have carefully selected. I did not pick from a generic list of pop tunes that I think fits the theme of what's going on here. But it's like, again, it's kind of overused. It almost feels like they were doing it to pad for time just a little bit because a lot of this script is a little underwritten.
This is a great short film. This did not probably need to be a feature-length epic, but I'm going to end this, and then I'm going to say this, and I'm going to go, I'm kind of going to get your yay or nay on it, and then I'm going to go right into the money.
Okay.
Before we started tonight, one of the things I was saying to Robert was like, Alex Garland can't think he made a deep movie here, right? There's no fucking way he put this out there and was just like, this, my magnum opus, this is my warning to the people, don't do this. And Robert's like, have you heard some of his fucking interviews? I'm like, oh, well, then Alex Garland's a moron.
Well, hang on. Let me tell you the last thing about this movie that I need to say, because I told this to you off air, and I think it needs to be said.
Sure.
Cool.
This movie was again kind of sold as having some kind of commentary on the current political discourse.
Right.
Ultimately, what this movie is functionally is contributing to the hagiography of journalism. It's watch the journalists do the journalisming, and aren't they heroes?
To which we here at Damn You Hollywood say, ha ha, your medium is dying.
A little bit. I'm more than willing to acknowledge journalism as a necessary thing, but I do not buy into the superhero complex that so many people in my profession seem to have fallen into.
Here, let me help you, and then I'm going to hit a button. The journalists of this world and the people that, as you put it, are contributing to the hagiography of journalism don't get to stand on that particular pedestal, while these are the same people who stood by because they had access to Saddam Hussein and kept quiet about the atrocities going on in Iraq so they could maintain their access. No. Fuck you people. You're just as bad as everybody else. And with that said, and fuck you people, you're as bad as everybody else is the phrase that pays here on Damn You Hollywood. So here we go. Here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
People watching this going, what did he just say? All right. On a budget of $150, $50 million at the time of recording this Monday, April 15th, it has earned $25.7 million. This is the certified independent hit, and the first one I think we've had this year. So hot diggity.
Probably.
All right. In the United States and Canada, the film was projected to gross 18 to 24 million from a little less than 4,000 theaters, the widest ever rated R release by an independent studio in its opening weekend. The film made 10.8 million on its first day, including 2.9 million from Thursday night previews, a record for A24. It went on to debut 25.7 million, surpassing Hereditary as the biggest opening weekend in A24's history, as well as the studio's first film to top the box office. So pretty good. I mean,
you pick a really down weekend for something that you market well.
I'll tell you what, the people at A24 were so when Disney just said fuck this year and moved everything into 2025, A24 was like, this is our moment, and it really was. Like, I can't knock the hustle. All right,
I can, but I won't.
Of course you can, my love. All right, Civil War was the #1 movie of the weekend. I will eat crow. Like we speak truth to power here on Damn You Hollywood, but when I'm wrong about something, and I frequently am, I will admit it out loud. I thought Godzilla versus Godzilla times Kong: The New Empire was going to repeat in its second week, and it got beat by Civil War. This
pretty handily, but it looks like
this was the
hang
one.
Hang on, Mark, no.
What?
Third week.
What are you talking about?
This is the third week for Godzilla.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, third week. You're right. Sorry. Anyway,
it didn't repeat its second week because there was nothing else there.
Correct.
It also had a 60+% drop from its opening week.
Fair. Yeah, this was the 1, 2, 3 kid beating Razor Ramon of movies. This was pretty good for Civil War. You do taking a drink every time we do a wrestling reference. You're drunk right now. Anyway,
please stop. We don't want you having alcohol poisoning.
In it, third week, Godzilla times Kong, the New Empire dropped from 1 to 2. Ghostbusters, Shitty Empire.
Godzilla Kong struggling to make money.
Maintained its spot as number 3 in its third week. Kung Fu Panda.
Fourth week for Frozen Empire.
Yeah, sorry. I should look at the right column when I talk. In its sixth week, Kung Fu Panda went up a notch. It
How
went
many
from
weeks,
5 to
Mark?
4. 6.
Just
He's got
86.
Dune Part 2 fell from 6 to 5. Monkey Man, yikes.
Monkey Man.
Everyone who saw that saw it, I guess.
I saw it. I mean,
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, just because we're not going to do a full review of it. I took my kids to go see it because I am a good parent. And
You guys
So you go watch a John Wick knockoff?
listen,
I call it John with a staph infection because everything is visibly dirty in that movie.
Listen, my children are cultured people living in the now with various races and genders and whatnot, and they accept that John Wick could also be an Indian living in India.
Look, all I'm saying is it's a knockoff. I don't care. Look, good on Dev Patel. That man has been trying to do something like this for a long time. He had to bet on himself to do it. I'm glad he did.
I'm all about
As a guy who enjoys John Wick style movies, I'm not complaining about its existence.
Yeah, William Bibiani said this was his audition to do James Bond, which I thought was an interesting take. Anyway, the kids
He's also not going to get because they're basically offering that to Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Ugh, I'm so annoyed by that. Anyway, my point is,
Why
I
are
love
you annoyed with that? Hang on, I got to know why that bothers you.
Because there's an opportunity to do something interesting with James Bond in a world that doesn't accept it anymore. Because we live in 2024 and not 1984.
Define interesting for me, please.
Oh, you're gonna back me into a fucking corner and make me say something that's gonna cause an argument.
Yes, I am. My cage crap is superior.
I hope it doesn't kick us off Twitter.
Oh, you mean X?
Yeah, sorry. X.
I just think like James Bond is, as a good-looking white dude, worked for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
But does James Bond in the year of our Lord 2024 have to be a good-looking white dude? Why couldn't it have been Idris Elba? Why couldn't it have been Dave Patel? Why couldn't it be Janine Garofalo? I'm just gonna throw names out here. I just want to see Robert.
Well, one of those isn't actually British, first of all.
My point is, there was an opportunity to really modernize this character. Figure out what could James Bond be.
So now we have to reflect modern audiences. Is that what
Hang on. No. Hang on. If you want to have a fucking fist fight, we'll have a fist fight. James Bond struggles in the culture nowadays. So let's look at the culture, let's look at the character, and see where we can make them meet so that everyone's happy. And not just in the race of the actor playing the character, but what about this character that keeps it still identifiably James Bond, but still is reflective of the time we're living in, so that modern audiences go for the ride on this. Or it's going to fail again. That's my point. I don't want James Bond to fail. It has to find its place in the marketplace to be something that people want to watch, and it's not going to in the direction they're going.
The last James Bond movies failed because they tried that. You realize this?
Well, no, they tried to make James. They tried to make James Bond an action hero. They tried to make him Rambo, and that's
no,
why
that's not what. That's
we
not
had
where
that
failed.
Conversation, Robert.
You and I have, and I'm still right.
Okay.
I mean,
Sorry, I got a work call here. Go ahead, Chris. Yell at him or something.
And so did you guys not like Skyfall?
Robert, you want to take that one?
Yeah.
I mostly liked Skyfall. Skyfall. Here's the problem with the Daniel Craig James Bond movies.
Yeah.
You only get like every other one.
You're right.
So,
right. Every other one he's in is a good one. Casino Royale, Skyfall. That's what I'm getting at.
So Casino Royale and Skyfall are both fine.
Yeah.
Quantum of Solace was wrecked by the strikes, but it still was wrecked. Spectre was so many missed opportunities. I don't like. Did you have to get the chimpanzee drunk before you let him throw the darts at your story points? Like, what did you do there? And No Time to Die was
8 hours long.
It was really long.
1, way too long. 2, stop trying to make Rami Malek a thing. 3, The decision to kill James Bond was not one that I think went over well. I don't know how you cast Christoph Waltz as Blofeld and then blow it that badly, but congratulations, you did it.
All right. I've answered my work call. Let's get back to this. Anyway, Monkey Man's great. Go see it. If we don't support films like Monkey Man, they're not going to keep letting they're not going to let films like Monkey Man be in films. You're going to get stuck with Ricky fucking Stenicki all day long on Amazon Prime. Goddamn.
Mark, how dare you insult the comedic talents of John Cena?
Go fuck yourself. Anyway.
He is a funny man.
I think he's funny. I don't know if you guys are being sarcastic or not.
It's everything else about that movie that's a problem. John Cena's great.
From the Walt Disney Studios, the first Omen fell from 4 to 7. Shrek
also
2.
subtitled The Bob Iger Story.
Your studio is dying. Shrek 2 re-release.
My
number 8.
brother, 2 of my brothers dressed up in dress shirts. One of them wore a suit to go see Shrek 2 in theaters. I failed them as an older sibling.
Hang on one second. You guys can talk. Sorry.
I'm sorry. It's just I'm still trying to. I didn't know Shrek 2 was released. I didn't even fucking pay attention to that. I can't.
All right, rounding out the top 10, we have The Long Game and then Sugar.
All right.
How did I not know you were going to do that?
Sting debuted at number 13. Arcadian number 15. Bade Mayan, Chot Mayan.
Heard pretty good things about Arcadian for
I've been trying to see. I was supposed to see his Prank Fest, but they pulled it the last moment. So I was like, well, fuck. Hey, there's no.
Look, Nick Cage going into his horror movie era because he's going to be in Long Legs coming up. Like, I'm down for Nick Cage in horror movies.
Are you guys fans of Mandy? Or am I the only one?
Okay, so quick Mandy story. I had best friend of the show, actually, Whitney Seibold of the critically acclaimed podcast, come on my show to do what we called Hoofcore, which was pig. I think I've told you the story, Chris. I had him come on to do pig, wolf, and lamb. Okay, as a triple feature.
Subtitled, "We promise we're not furries."
Yeah, I pitched that to him on Twitter, and he was like, "I'm down. That sounds fantastic." So, of course, we struck up a great friendship, and we're best friends now. So he had been talking about Mandy for a couple of shows in a row, and I finally just reached out to him, like, "Do you just want to come on my show and talk about Mandy?" So I did. I had him on, and we did an entire show. It did not. I was trying to get an hour out of that. He was good after 20 minutes. He was like a girl that's like, I don't need you to make love to me. Just put it in, get it out. Let's both get off and get this over with. And I'll be happy. And I'm like, all right, sorry, pal. So yes,
if you haven't seen the fever, the heavy metal acid drenched fever dream, that is Mandy.
I love it so much. I love it so much.
It's Nicolas Cage sword fighting with chainsaws.
Well, that was the funny thing. If you remember that review, Robert, and I think you would agree with this if you heard me and Whitney's review. Whitney had a very he had a very flat review of Mandy. Like, he thinks it's awesome, but he didn't dig into it at all. I was trying to do deconstruction interpretation. He's just like, dude, it's a guy fighting with a chainsaw. It's just like, that's all it is. I'm like, all right.
That's not that's not all it is, but if that's all you want to
that's how that review went, right or wrong.
Actually, the Jeremiah Sands album on the return to right now.
Nice.
Perfect. All right, moving on. I'm in the wrong screen. All right, Escape from Germany debuted at number 20. Sasquatch Sunset.
I can't tell you how much my family said, hey, Robert, get Mark to review Escape from Germany. It'll be funny.
Oh, good. I'm glad your whole family's in on the gag now. The Absence of Eden debuted at number 31. Food Inc. 2 from Magnolia Pictures is number 32. It's Only Life After All, 34. Omen, 45. And that was the weekend that was. Alrighty. Worldwide on the dime, baby. Number 1 in the world at just under 700 million is Dune Part 2.
Mark is going to get to the end of the money this year and have just a meltdown, the meltdown of all meltdowns. He lost it for months straight at the fact that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was one of the top 10 earners from 2023 until a couple of weeks into 2024.
I would have lost my mind too if I didn't pay attention to it, but I would have like, what the fuck are we coming to?
But that was Mark's 2023 money. Just watching him slowly, his mental health slowly deteriorate every week.
Chris, you know that we treat the money on this show like we're the Wolf of fucking Wall Street. Like Robin and I are very into like how well films do, and I understand like you guys don't give a shit, but this is the life's blood of this podcast. How well do these movies perform?
I'm thinking Madam Web here at number 8, and that blows.
Oh, let me get there, baby. Don't rush me.
So all right. The point being that this year, when nothing even hits 900 million, Mark is going to walk into the woods to live deliberately.
Goddamn right. Speaking of the woods and deliberately, Kung Fu Panda currently at 452 million is number 2. Godzilla multiplied by Kong: The New Empire, 437.
Does not even equal $500 million.
Yeah, it's struggling, man.
How much? What was the budget for that? Was it 500 million?
Oh, for Godzilla Kong?
Yeah.
The budget was
150, wasn't it?
I think so.
Actually, I saw a movie called Azrael Panic Fest, and the writer of Godzilla Kong is also the writer of that movie, and it really couldn't have been more different. But because I can't, the thing I don't like about Godzilla, times by Kong, is the whole human element. That part is the weakest part of the movie.
We talked about that. Have you guys gotten to it yet?
Neil hasn't seen it yet, but I have. Okay. And I wanted just the only good thing about that is the fighting, is the kaiju fighting. So all I really cared about the movie. Human element is the least interesting and the most boring part of the movie. And it was like stuffed in there.
That was what we said too. Like the best part of the movie is Kong arguing with the Scar King.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's like, is that a fake tooth, you pussy? Leave me alone. I'm old.
And like I get like how funny it is how they had everything like that fake arm form and it fixes frostbite and shit. But you're like, I'm like, I'm really past that as only really cool fights, and we did. So
all right, moving on. Ghostbusters. Okay, Bob Marley. So in a steep drop from number 3 to number 4, from 437 to 176. Bob Marley, One Love. Ghostbusters just fucking can't get past. Just keeps tripping over its own dick at 159.
Yeah, that's a big money loser.
Yeah, we maybe stop making them. How about that? The Beekeeper. How I've turned into that guy. Like, well, these things make money. They have to do something with them. Now I'm just like, no, fuck these movies. Stop doing it. The Beekeeper.
Yeah.
Who I just want to stay in the top 10 all year at this point.
That's a good movie.
Mean Girls at 104. Madam Web at 100 million. Argyle.
Madam Web can't beat the Mean Girls musical.
Argyle is currently on Apple TV. You can watch it for free if you have Apple TV Plus. However, it's still at number 9 at less than 100 million. Yep. And rounding out the top 10 is Exuma. So that's where we are now. And Civil War is resting comfortably at number 19 between Doraemon, the movie, Nobita's Earth Symphony, and The Master and Margarita, or as was known as Mark on a Friday Night. All right.
So hang on. So Civil War will in fact probably be able to surpass Mark Wahlberg's Arthur the King movie, but it's probably not top 10 material.
Yeah. All right. Civil War is not going to be the number 1 movie coming this weekend. This weekend is Abigail. Abigail has a fair amount of marketing to it. It's a horror movie. It's got some comedic elements to it. It's got a young, pretty cast. No reason why it won't be number 1 this weekend. There's nothing else.
The preview for that is not what Argyle was. I saw the preview for Abigail so many fucking times. Just like I saw the preview for Argyle so many times. I have to see it because of
it's on our list. The other movie that comes out is the new Guy Ritchie joint, but we're gonna wait to do it the following weekend. The following week we're gonna do it the 30th. That is the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare,
which we are kind of hyped for.
And then we get into the summer blockbuster season, kicking off with The Fall Guy, which will be the number 1 movie of that weekend.
Probably.
And then we have Kingdom of Planet of the Apes, which is head to head with Back to Black. So funny. So I just want to share this really quickly. So my kids are now hip to the jive, right? And they see a trailer and they'll immediately tell me whether or not I should take them to go see it, whether or not it's on my review schedule. So now I have to go see with my children. I saw the TV Glow. Chris, keep me in mind. I have to see it.
Okay. I will.
No. Mark, you are the parent. Tell them no. When it streams somewhere, you can watch it there.
And then I have to go see the new Amy Winehouse movie, Back to Black. because my kids want to see it. Like that one, even Melissa said she wanted to see it. Like I may be forced into a whole like big family thing.
How is it that you, the music guy, are the one being dragged kicking and screaming to the Amy Winehouse movie?
Well, I'm not that one. I'm not necessarily. I saw the TV Glow. I have zero interest in, but my kids want to see it, so I'm going to take them. I want to support their interest in independent film before they turn into every other person.
Good going, Mark.
I'm a good parent. But the Amy Winehouse movie I'm actually interested in. But it comes at the same time as Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and I have my schedule I have to attend to.
So
as someone who does not like Amy Winehouse's music or that potential movie, I appreciate you going with the Monkees.
I really love the rise of that whole trilogy.
Yeah.
I'm scared forward is gonna suck bad. I feel like I'm worried about it, but I'm gonna see.
I figured out what they're doing. I think I figured it out. So they're doing the original Planet of the Apes stuff in reverse. We're starting with the Rise of the Apes.
Yeah.
The last movie in this like revitalized franchise for the apes is gonna be the astronauts landing on Earth. Like that's what we're doing here. We're just doing that backwards, and I'm kind of here for it. I talked about one of my brothers with this actually. The entire Planet of the Apes franchise, starting with the original one, that is a shockingly consistent franchise. There's like 1.5 bad movies in it, and that's it. And there's like 7 of them.
That's back when adults used to make movies. Anywho, so yeah, then we have Furiosa, which will win its weekend. So all of this to say, like, well, why is he going through this list of movies? Well, one, it's just to tell you what's coming up here on this show, but also Civil War doesn't have a chance in hell at this point of making a tremendous amount more money. I think it'll be profitable. I think it gets to 75 to 100 million, and then it dies.
That's 3x what it is now.
I'm kind of worried that it's gonna. I'm not worried, but I don't because I'm gonna fuck really. But if it drops, I'm afraid it'll drop down.
Yes, Chris, we know you and Neil are communists and don't care about money. We got it. I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
It's gonna drop down to the box office. I think significantly the second week.
Oh yeah, Abigail's gonna kill it.
Yeah,
kill it dead. But I think
50, I think people hang on 60 if it's lucky. I'll just say it outright. 60 if it's lucky.
Listen, I'm 100 million only because we have such a weak series of movies coming up.
Don't care. 60.
I'm gonna go, like I said, I'm gonna go in the low end of 75, and I'm gonna go with the high end of 100. I don't think it breaks 100 though.
I'm gonna go between you guys. Let's say that.
We like it when another guy gets between us.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking? He's saying 60. I'm saying 75. So where are you at?
I'm gonna say 70. If I'm optimistic about it though.
All right, we're really gonna price is right this, huh?
Yeah.
Without going over, wins the washing machine.
Terrific. All right. With that said, let's get into the final segment of the evening, the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Now, Chris, I know you've watched our podcast before because you pulled me to the side after one of your shows. We're like, is Robert okay? He's fucking gone. I did the whole bit here and he's fucking gone. That'll teach me to, I don't know, pay attention to what I'm doing. There he is. Take 2. Hey, Chris.
Sorry about that.
You're fine. I know you've seen our show before because you pulled me to the side once or twice. You're like, is Robert okay? But here's my question to you. Have you heard our critical review at the end of the show? Like, have you gotten this far into it, or do you just like get to the money and go fuck these guys and like that's it? You turn it off.
Just the money, but I also have a wife who wants me around. So,
oh, you have one of those?
Yeah.
You're better off than both of us at the moment. So.
Yeah, I don't know what that's like anymore.
Gee, big spender down here. Like you the pyramid.
No, I'm super lucky. So.
Well, my thing is okay. So one of the things about this segment is I marry off our guests to different reviewers. So just be aware of that.
Oh,
okay?
I'm excited for it.
I'm gonna tell your wife that as far as the show is concerned, you're now poly, and I'm gonna find you another girlfriend. Okay. or a boyfriend. We don't have to be, like it's a big wide world out there. We don't have to keep the strict gender norms.
Yeah, just keep it.
Chris is like, please shut up already.
Only bad things have ever happened when we start breaking those down. But hey, why not?
Okay, Mr. Sodom and Gomorrah.
All
right,
I'm wrong.
you're not. All right, 82% fresh on the critical tomato meter, and that drops to 71 when we get to all critics.
That's a pretty decent drop, actually, for this 10%. That's.
I have to imagine most people were kind of tricked by a lot of the technique in this movie, and we're not critically thinking about it. And that 71% is critical thinkers. The verified audience didn't love it as much as the critics. That's at 77%, and all audience, it's just the same as the top critic. So there you go.
Yeah.
The AI writes, tough and unsettling by design, Civil War is a gripping close-up look at the violent uncertainty of life in a nation in crisis. Hey, real quick, Robert, have you heard the latest Metal Hammer of Doom where I reviewed Time to Eat with Jesse?
Yes, part of it.
Okay, so did you hear how when he asked ChatGPT to review his album, it wrote shit similar to what we read on Rotten Tomatoes, which I thought was the most hilarious part about that entire segment?
What you should be noting is that the entire review culture could be replaced with a language model, and no one would know the difference.
Not even a little bit. No one would question it at all. All right. Let's get into this. Let's find some wives for you guys. Or people I just don't like. Like Stephanie Zasharek of Time Magazine, former magazine, top critic. Civil War is both a more ambitious picture and act of grim entertainment, but it's also sodden with its own importance, as if it thinks it's saying something truly important, something we don't already know about the real America.
You write for Time Magazine and dare to pretend that you know anything about the real America? First of all, feel free to go jump off your tower. Second, I'm pretty sure you eat corn the long way. This is what you arrived at.
There is in an infinite amount of parallel universes with an infinite amount of possibilities. The one where Robert and Carlo Renata, the curvy film critic, went to this movie together on a date is the world I want to live in.
You want to live in a world where I've been arrested after going on a rampage. That's what I'm getting at here.
So the future ex-Mrs. Robert Winfree, Carlo Renata of the curvy film critic. I'm torn on this film, don't you understand, dear Hawks?
You see, I know you're doing a bit when you apply personality to this, but I can't help but think that you're right.
I'm torn on this film, yet can't deny how disturbingly accurate it is for this moment in American history. And she falls on the fainting couch.
Give me those pearls you're clutching. I'm going to strangle you with them.
Cailee Spaeny and Kirsten Dunst provide powerfully understated performances that sear one's soul. You know, for a film critic, you've watched painfully little movies, madam.
If this is actually searing at the core of your being, you are sheltered beyond belief.
All right, in your virtual signal review of the moment, Tim Brennan of About Boulder. Civil War is necessary filmmaking for the moment. No, it isn't. Not the way this one came out.
No. This is not only virtue signaling. This is the laziest film review that exists because you copied and pasted the PR that was sent to you.
Vincent Mancini of Film Drunk. Unpleasantness in search of a narrative justification.
No. That's a pretty big misread. Like, yes, this is very unpleasant, but pretending that it's searching for narrative justification for its unpleasantness is wrong. I've seen movies that are nothing but throwing shocking, disturbing imagery at you. This is not one of those that only does it for the sake of doing it.
That's not Cello.
All right. Sarah Michelle Fetters of MovieFreak.com. Top critic. She gets paid for this, ladies and gentlemen. Mad professional she is. As laudable and numerous aspects of this production may be, Garland Civil War remains a vexing mixed bag.
Is that a bad review, though, really?
No, that's about where we landed, actually.
Valerie Calfrin of awfj.org. Reminiscent of other journalism war films such as 1984's The Killing Fields, with characters struggling to make sense out of the chaos. This is an intelligent, propulsive, and shattering film about the cost of division and the toll of recording history. I actually don't think this is intelligent, though.
It's not.
I think it's vivid, but it's not
Yeah.
profound in any way. Oh no, war makes monsters of us all. Man shouldn't be inhumane to man. Those are pretty basic things, folks.
Yeah.
My kids figured that one out.
Congratulations. I'm pretty sure that's a thing that's like it. You could study that in cuneiform. That's how long that's been around.
Alrighty. Hey, my sworn enemy, Michael Medved of the Michael Medved Show.
Does he even know that you have a blood oath against him?
Does it matter?
Well, yeah, kind of actually, because
Yeah.
if you've had a blood oath this long and he doesn't even know it, you're doing it wrong, man.
Let's put him on the show. Let's try to get him on the show and see what happens.
and then I'll cut him off like he did me, the bastard.
What really this is a small petty grudge that Mark has held on to for like 2 decades.
I have nothing in my life. Anyway, intensely bloody and frightening. Yes, it's thought-provoking, but hardly a joyous time at the movies. Oh, Michael, this is too much movie for you, pal.
Okay, hang on. This is not an intensely bloody movie.
No,
I've
it's not.
seen intensely bloody movies. This ain't it.
Again, Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin Carr, fat guy at the movies.
Just the Evil Dead remake.
Yeah. Kevin Carr, fat guy at the movies, who we beat on for the longest time, and we made him a better reviewer.
We
I
like
feel like we
think
did
so.
the world a service. Leaving the how and why out, the story focuses on the human impact. It simply asks the audience, is this what you really want?
Why do you have so many ellipses in there? What's being left out?
Dan Murrell of Dan Murrell Reviews Sex Perverts. I like when we have new people. I like when we have new people on the show who don't know these jokes because these are running gags of ours, and they hear him for the first time, like, he said sex pervert.
I just
Wow.
think it's hilarious. It's funny.
Last I heard, he gave Harvey Weinstein's career a glowing review on this.
A human story, not a political one, in choosing to follow a group of journalists. Civil War takes the focus off the why of the war and puts it on the effects of the war.
Except, no. Like, we don't see a major battle. We see a couple of small-scale skirmishes.
All right.
Like, no,
also
we don't
saw
actually.
we saw After Effects, that dead highway, and I guess that half point of town. I don't know.
Again, like I get what he's trying to say the movie was doing, but I don't think it's accurate.
All right. The future Mr. Owen. See, I
Mhm.
married you off to a dude.
Oh,
Johnny Oleksinsky of the New York.
He's so dreamy.
Thank you, Chris. You can come back now. New York Post,
Don't
former
encourage
newspaper.
him. We want Mark to stop doing this.
Never. Garland's movie is no more vital to the discourse than The Purge. It is about as 1% as entertaining. That's the
Okay.
best review I've read.
Okay, hang on. I don't think it's that much less entertaining than The Purge. But man, does that also kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of what this brings to the discourse.
Hope Madden, this is the first movie she's ever seen in her life. She's from Belarus. She's also from Fox 28 Columbus.
Why would you say Belarus?
Oh, you don't know that joke? That's a running gag with me of people who don't know culture are from Belarus. Because Belarus doesn't have culture.
Mhm.
Okay, Andrei Arlovsky disagrees from you because he's from Belarus.
Andrei Arlovsky has been hit in the head a lot.
And it would still kill you if he had got the chance.
Whatevs. Yes, catch me first. It's a must-see film.
Why- I'm just curious why Belarus. What did they do? You got Bangladesh right there.
Ew, don't be racist. Anywho, Hope Madden.
I didn't say Chad.
It's a must-see film that delivers everything you want from a movie. Ma'am, leave your house. COVID's over. Jesus Christ.
Or please see a doctor for the effects of long COVID or whatever oxygen deprivation happened to your brain.
He's back! Oh, my favorite man is back. Black Robert Winfree, Armand White of National Review. Garland tries for visionary virtuosity, faking rawness and sensationalism, all to predict America's collapse. Designed to be fun, it is instead offensive.
I don't think it's designed to be fun at all.
Oh,
At all.
how I've missed you, Armand White.
Yeah, 1, not designed to be fun. 2, you don't declare something offensive. It offends you. Things are not offensive or inoffensive. It's just what you do. You are an object that takes action, not an object to be acted upon. Please understand the difference.
The future ex-Mrs. Chris Owen, Shannon McGrew of Creepy Kingdom. So
I like her hair.
Right? That's where the match came from, pal. Right here.
I miss my hair too, so it's okay.
It's all right. I haven't had hair since the early 2000s. So, Civil War is thrilling.
You could say since the second grade, Mark. We'd still believe you.
Shut up.
Look, he lost his hair about the same rate my immediately younger brother did, so I have to get jokes in like that on occasion.
Civil War is a thrilling, compelling, and thought-provoking film that brings viewers into intense action to show the horrors that photojournalists experience. Only photojournalists, just the photojournalists.
Yeah, no one else.
Experience to get the truth to the surface.
So once again, this is a person who cheerleads journalism as something that is noble, laudable, and clearly these people are superiors and they know what is best to be done. If you think this is thought-provoking, I weep for the state of your synapses.
Resident special ed student Travis Hobson of Punch Drunk Critics. That's so mean.
Yeah, that was even for you, that was a little rough.
If this is truly Garland's last movie as a director, turning his attention back fully into screenwriting, then he has made one hell of a final statement. Thanks, Travis.
Why did you capitalize hell?
Because hell is a place.
I'm not sure you needed it to be the proper noun in this context.
One more, and I think we're done for the evening. Hey, here he is. Kurt Loder of Dun, 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 Dun. You hear it first. MTV News. Also, Creator Syndicate.
Another man Mark is deeply personally offended by his continued existence.
Oh, well.
It stands apart from the traditional bombs and bullets war picture, and I wonder if casual viewers revved up for a traditional guts and glory action flick might not in the end be disappointed by this one and possibly put it in a bad-mouthing mood. What I like about this review is Kurt Loder also thinks you're all morons.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like is he really thinking they were that dumb?
Clearly, the only reason you might dislike this is if your intelligence is so low that you must badmouth it. And, buddy, I got a load for you.
Hey! All I needed was a purr, or at least Popeye. Well, folks.
Not going to tell you what. Let me rephrase. I'm going to go load up for you. And allow me to reload. I think I missed that last time.
It took almost 20 years, but I got Robert to do sexual innuendo on the air.
I'm talking about literal gunfire, you weirdo.
Sure you are. Anyway, Chris, did you have fun?
I had a great time. Thanks for having me on.
We only did this for you. We wanted you to have fun.
Well, I had a great time. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for having me on.
All right, we got to get you back. I don't know when, I don't know where, and I don't know why.
You're now stuck in the black hole with the rest of us. Once you're on here, you can't. Not even light escapes the gravitational pull of this podcasting.
I will Planet of the Apes. Maybe we'll do that together.
Sure.
All right. Cool. And and Rob, you're more fun than I thought you were. So
I'm an acquired taste.
Yes, like absinthe. All right, so
I was gonna go with like strychnine, but okay, I'll take that.
Robert, slightly poisonous. All right, Chris Owen, show us where you pissed from.
Okay, well, you guys can find us at movies.net, facebook.com/podcast, we're X at MTS Podcast, and if you guys just want to send an old-fashioned email, it's info@movies.net or movies.podcast@gmail.com. And wherever you find podcasts, and we're around all the time. You hear Neil talk about wrestling and movies, and you just talk about movies. So
when are you recording again? And what's this week's show?
This week's show is Driveway Dolls and Civil War.
Oh, okay. What do you think of Driveway Dolls?
I haven't seen it actually. After we get off here, I'll take a piss on the fire it up. Okay. But yeah, I'm excited.
So Bob Marley and Beaver Damage, or whatever the one.
Yeah, that was the last one. Yeah, Bob Marley.
That's in the can already.
Yeah. I'm about to send to you. In fact, I'm just about done with it. But yeah, Bob Marley One Love was a bit different, and I didn't hate it, but it was there.
My kids really liked it. I slept through it. This is why I don't go see movies on Friday nights anymore, because I can't stay awake. Sunday mornings, that works for me.
But yeah, thanks for having me on. I had a good time doing this.
Oh, great. Well, you're allowed back. You're one of our friends now. All right. Tomorrow, I love you tomorrow. we don't redo many of the Long Road to Ruins from the days of yore because I don't want to. I said it once. I don't need to talk about it anymore. However, there was a show that was only half done, and I did it with somebody who wasn't a normal contributor. I was on his podcast all the time, but he was very rarely on one of mine. So I thought, well, this is a show that probably I could just do fresh and pretend that never happened. So myself and Sean Comer will be doing the 4 Lethal Weapon movies tomorrow on Long Road to Ruin.
A genuinely great quadrilogy of films.
Yeah. Silly.
Hang on. It's silly, but no joke. The character arc of Martin Riggs from 1 to 4, from the beginning of 1 to the end of 4, great stuff.
Yeah, I've been enjoying the rewatch. I just watched 3 this afternoon. I got one more to watch tomorrow before the show. But and I'm of two minds of it. I've enjoyed a lot of like the personal drama and the action stuff, but Richard Donner's effect on these movies is these are very silly movies. Very fantastical. If this is not how policing works. Anyway,
well, of course not, but who cares?
Speaking of not how policing works, Ronnie Adams will be hosting a show in theory. And he will be hosting Adam from, I believe, his old Screaming Boy show, and Pat Mullen. They'll be talking Fallout. And then on a special edition of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, this Friday, it's a reschedule from January. I'm actually going to stay home on a Friday night and do a podcast like a nerd. Myself and Chris Bailey will be talking the 2 Flintstone movies. The Flintstones, starring John Goodman and Rick Moranis, and Viva Rock Vegas, which was a deal with the devil.
No, that was the payment. That is what was inflicted upon us as punishment for our sins, Mark.
Yeah, it's horrible. Next week on Damn You Hollywood is Abigail. That'll be myself, Robert, and theoretically Dorian and Alexis. Well, definitely Alexis, because she says she's coming. She's definitely coming. But Dorian may or may not be there. We'll see. And then myself and Alexis will be looking at Resident Alien Season 3, which I should really start watching one of these days. And then we finished the second half of our Schools in Crisis show. We did the serious movies. Now we do the awesome movies, according to Pat. We'll be looking at The Substitute, The Principal, and 187 on an undercover cop. Robert Williams. Robert Winfree of the Screaming Boy podcast. Show us where you pissed from.
You really got to stop making that joke,
Nope.
I mean that in all sincerity. Like, you got to let that one die. It only works when you say it at Ronnie.
Show us where you pissed from?
No. Of the Screaming Boy podcast.
Oh, yeah, okay. Maybe that one I can retire.
Yeah, no. I'm not willing to fight you on your setups at this point for that one yet. So.
Okay.
As much as it demeans you, me, and everyone who listens to it, I accept that.
Oh, hey, speaking of demeaning everyone that we work with, guess what new podcast Jesse and I are starting?
Something related to artificial intelligence.
You're not wrong. Chris, you're a music guy. Get this, right? You're gonna say this and you're gonna tent in your pants.
I might.
You ready? Ready?
Yeah,
I'm gonna lay it on you, Big Daddy. Sessions. The RIBN, the album. Yes. The Radulich and Broadcasting Network album. This is a podcast where each episode we artificially intelligently prompt a song based on like 20-year podcast journey.
Oh shit! I'm cooling right now.
Thank you.
Okay, so which death metal song is going to be the combination of our review of Deadpool and Mortal Kombat? I think you could probably hit up Corpse Grinder and get him to actually do the vocals for that.
Maybe
that might be necessary.
I will tell you that the very first song I want to work on is More Dinosaurs.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a classic. You got to go with that.
Yeah, I think I might. I don't want to do necessarily one named after every show, but I definitely want to do one just for Damn You Hollywood because I had this in my head today because Chris knows that I am an artiste.
Indeed.
I have a song in my heart at all times. And I was thinking today,
again, it's a horrible death metal song, probably subtitled "Coming Blood."
You're not wrong. But I was thinking like Damn You Hollywood just needs like its own theme. But I'm thinking like Damn You Hollywood set to like Ministry's big dick energy. Like I'm like Damn You Hollywood, like that kind of energy. I want that.
Do it.
Yes.
Okay, so your More Dinosaurs one, you're gonna work through it. You're gonna workshop a few different ones out live on the air. Is kind of how you're going
Yes.
with this.
Yep.
Here's what you need to do.
Did
I need one
hang on.
iteration.
Did you watch the Metal Hammer of Doom where we did Queen of the Night?
I think so.
Okay, basically that segment done as a podcast each
Okay.
like once a month.
One segment, one of your prompts.
Yeah.
More Dinosaurs, but done in the style of Weird Al as a sequel to his Jurassic Park parody song.
I got you, baby.
Mm.
Because that's fucking brilliant.
More Dinosaurs came out of you guys talking about the Jurassic Park, and
Yeah.
there's a Weird Al Jurassic Park song. So
Yeah,
More
it's just-
Dinosaurs, Weird Al style.
Right, which is a parody of MacArthur Park. Oh, I'm down with this. All right, keep going.
I may only give you the one, but I'll give you a good one.
You did good.
If you like my work, everybody, I cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com, MLW when they release stuff, and I get it. WWE SmackDown on Fridays, where you can come complain that I rate a show 0.5 lower than I should have. Not a joke.
Fucking thankless job you have.
I'm aware. Look, my thought is if we're only 0.5 off, then it's just down to personal preference. As long as I'm not like 2 or 3 standard deviations off, we're good. Again, I also cover MMA action, and UFC 300 was on was Saturday, and boy was that a card. If you want to see one of the best knockouts you'll ever see in your life, it's on the UFC's YouTube channel. It is the finish to Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje, and you can thank me later. Doing that in the last 10 seconds of a fight he's winning is why Max Holloway is Max Holloway. If you want to hear me wax a little bit poetic about that, as well as talk about a handful of the technical aspects of fighting, listen to the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast, where I look into the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts. This last episode was just a review of UFC 300, some of the fights that were announced, and kind of that. Because the UFC is off this week. Week after is, well, we're back in the warehouse. So, we'll preview that card this coming Sunday evening / Monday morning. So be on the lookout for that if you're so inclined. And very much looking forward to Abigail next week. I've got some pretty decent faith in that director.
Cool. All right, folks. Thank you for joining us here. Thank you for Chris for joining us.
Oh, no
It's
problem.
been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a great time.
All right, for Robert Winfree, I'm Mark Radulich. This has been Damn You Hollywood. Be well, be safe, and behave.